You know those games that, no matter how hard you try, you just can't find a flaw? They deliver everything with an absurd level of precision. Strong narrative, refined gameplay, and worlds that feel alive. Nothing is there by chance. Every scene, every line of dialogue, every system has a purpose. These are the titles that leave a mark, that impress, and show what games can be at their peak. These are 20 single-player games so perfect that no one can criticize them. I'm Jax, and if you're new here, welcome to the Play Hunters channel. If you could subscribe to help me grow, I'd really appreciate it, from one gamer to another. Kicking off our list, we have one of the biggest phenomena in gaming history. A world destroyed by a fungus, collapsed societies, and a relationship that starts with distrust and grows in the middle of chaos. The Last of Us doesn't try to be subtle. It drags you into a brutal universe where every decision feels like it weighs tons. The focus is on the journey, not just between points on a map, but between two characters who reveal themselves little by little, layer by layer, while everything around them insists on crumbling. The gameplay nails it by mixing tense stealth moments with desperate combat, where survival often matters more than winning. Resources are scarce, and every bullet wasted can cost dearly. The setting works as an extension of a narrative. Buildings overtaken by nature, streets in oppressive silence, debris that tells stories without words. Nothing feels placed there by accident. Everything contributes to the constant sense of urgency and fragility. Even in a broken world, there's attention to detail in every corner. The soundtrack, with its sad and subtle chords, seems to know what you're feeling. And the graphics, even years after the release, still impress with how they capture expressions, light, and texture with a realism that's unsettling. The game doesn't rely on grandeur to make an impact. It finds strength in silences, restrained gestures, and inevitable losses. Every part of it feels built to stay in memory. And it's time for a game that mixes action, adventure, and that popcorn movie vibe. With explosive shootouts, insane chases, and settings that look like they came straight out of a Hollywood storyboard. Uncharted 4 turns each chapter into a spectacle. But don't be fooled. Behind the explosions and quick-witted jokes, there's a more intimate story that delves into the protagonist's past and questions the weight of the choices he's made up to that point. The gameplay is an adrenaline-filled invitation. Climbing unstable cliffs, shootouts amid ruins, and puzzles that test your logic, all with a rhythm that leaves no room to breathe. The stages vary from dense jungles, luxurious mansions, to vibrant cities, always with smooth transitions that make the player feel part of the journey. And you can't ignore the level of polish. Controls are precise, and the combat strikes the perfect balance between challenge and fun. The true charm lies in how the game plays with the sense of discovery. Hidden treasures, spontaneous dialogues between characters, small details in the environment. All of this creates a feeling that the world is always telling a parallel story. The visuals are a spectacle in themselves, with jaw-dropping landscapes and smooth animations that sell every scene with credibility. It's a game that doesn't try to reinvent anything, but refines every element so carefully that it's hard not to be impressed. In fourth place, it's impossible not to mention a game that became a reference in immersion, narrative, and world building. With characters that feel ripped from real life and landscapes that change with time and weather, Red Dead Redemption 2 drops you into the heart of an era that is fading away. It doesn't feel like you're playing a Western. It feels like you're living the last breaths of a bygone world where freedom starts to come at a price. Every step carries weight. Every scene has a silent farewell. The rhythm is different from the usual here. You don't rush all the time. You observe. Riding through open plains, tending to camp, interacting with strangers on the roads. All of it contributes to creating an unexpected bond with this universe. Missions aren't just objectives. They're fragments of a life full of tough choices and harsh consequences. The shootouts have impact, the chases are raw, and every conflict feels like a piece of a bigger puzzle that only completes when you're emotionally invested. The technical side matches the narrative ambition with almost absurd details. Animals behave realistically, light shifts during the day with natural ease, and even how the mud sticks to your boots reinforces the attention to every part. The tracks appear at just the right moments, never stealing the scene, but giving a melancholic tone to every departure, every reunion, every silence. It's not just about what you do, it's about how you feel when the world keeps moving forward, even if you're not ready. In fifth place, we have a game that doesn't hold your hand, but leaves you free in a world where everything can destroy you. And that's exactly what makes it so addictive. A devastated continent, filled with colossal creatures, ancient secrets, and structures that defy logic. Elden Ring is more than a challenge. It's a constant invitation to the unknown, where every corner hides something that can either reward you or punish you brutally. There's no fixed path, just your curiosity guiding every step. The combat is the beating heart of the game, and it requires precision, patience, and courage. Every enemy, no matter how small, can corner you if you underestimate them. But the game offers total freedom to create strategies, shape your character to your playstyle, and decide when to fight or retreat. The world structure is brilliant. Regions are seamlessly connected, filled with surprises and shortcuts. There's always something out of sight waiting to be discovered, something that changes everything you thought you knew. Everything works in harmony with the artistic direction. Oppressive environments, monumental castles, foggy forests, and deserts that seem endless. Each area has its own identity. The soundtrack serves as a signal for either alert or contemplation, and the sound effects play a fundamental role in the tension. The graphics don't strive for absolute realism, but create a unique aesthetic, full of atmosphere. It's a game that doesn't give you easy answers, but rewards those who persist in trying to understand it. In sixth place, we have a game that surprised everyone with its hypnotizing visuals and combat that feels like a fierce dance between mythology and Eastern fantasy. The first thing that grabs attention in Black Myth, Wukong, is the bold artistic direction, which blends Chinese legends with bizarre creatures and environments that feel like living paintings. Nothing is predictable. Each new enemy, each new setting, brings a sense of awe and danger, as if the game is always one step ahead of the player. The combat mechanics are brutal and stylish at the same time. The protagonist masters techniques that turn each encounter into a precise choreography, requiring perfect timing, pattern reading, and mastery of possible transformations. The enemies are challenging and varied, with unexpected attacks that constantly force the player to adapt. Boss fights have a special weight, not only due to the challenge, but because of the spectacle that surrounds them, with striking animations and impactful moves. Each biome is crafted with almost artisan care. Damp caves with a golden glow, dark forests where light and shadow battle each other, ancient temples overtaken by nature, all contribute to the game's mystical and unstable atmosphere. The soundtrack mixes traditional instruments with cinematic tension, always aligning with the tone of the battle or discovery. The beauty lies not only in the form, but in how everything seems interconnected by a greater mystery, pushing you forward even without uttering a word. In seventh place, it's time to talk about a game that redefined the open-world concept with rare boldness. No marked routes, no waiting for instructions. Zelda, Breath of the Wild drops you in a gigantic kingdom right from the start, and the fun lies in deciding where to begin. Everything in this world reacts to the weather, time, and even physics, constantly creating unexpected situations. Climbing, gliding, the way you move, everything encourages exploration however you feel like. Combat requires more than brute strength. Weapons break, enemies make you think, and the environment can either be an ally or a trap, depending on your creativity. Climbing a slippery mountain, using fire to clear a path, solving a puzzle in an unlikely way. These are the things that truly drive the game. And the map isn't just big. It's full of things happening, from hidden corners to creatures that appear when you least expect them, always with that sense of genuine discovery. The landscapes directly influence how each moment unfolds. Golden plains at sunset, snowstorms that force you to protect yourself better, thunder that disrupts any battle. These give personality to the world. The soundtrack appears with subtlety, almost like a whisper that guides without dominating. And the visuals, with soft colors and clean lines, create a unique identity that enchants without needing to rely on realism. It's the kind of place you want to explore just for the pleasure of seeing what comes next. In eighth place, here's a game that takes its time to win you over. It lets the plot, the conflicts, and the world do that slowly, with maturity and depth. The Witcher 3 presents a continent torn apart by wars, corruption, and ancient legends that intertwine with daily life in a raw and dense way. Nothing feels superficial. Each region has its own culture, every village has real problems, and every creature that appears has a dark origin. Everything seems to exist with a clear purpose. The gameplay stands out with its freedom of approach. You choose which contracts to take, how to deal with difficult moral decisions, when to explore, and when to fight. Combat is a mix of swordplay, magic signs, and strategic preparation, always focusing on enemy vulnerabilities. Even the side quests break away from the shallow standard and often bring stories that surpass even the main ones. It's easy to get lost in conversations, investigations, or conflicts that arise unexpectedly and end up marking your entire journey. Every corner of the world seems deliberately crafted. Dense forests, abandoned castles, open fields beneath a sky that's always changing. Everything carries a narrative and aesthetic weight. The seasons influence the mood of the scenes, and the use of traditional music creates a melancholic and immersive atmosphere. The graphics make sure to show details, whether in a tired face's expression or in the way the wind moves the leaves. It's a world that doesn't just want to be beautiful, it wants to be remembered. In ninth place, it's time to talk about a game that bets on historical realism in a way rarely seen. No dragons, no magic, no prophecies. Kingdom Come. Deliverance 2 focuses on a raw medieval Europe, marked by real conflicts, intense religiosity, and power struggles between nobles and peasants. The world doesn't revolve around a legendary hero, but around someone trying to survive amid the chaos and rigid rules of a divided society. Every detail reinforces the authenticity of this setting. The combat mechanics require much more than button mashing. The directional aiming system, stamina, armor weight, and the rhythm of blows make each duel feel more like a real fight than a combo sequence. The missions have multiple possible outcomes, based on your actions, choices, and even your behavior during dialogues. Stealth, diplomacy, and knowledge also become weapons, and there's no universal solution to the problems. Everything depends on how you handle the consequences. The cities breathe history. Noisy markets, isolated monasteries, taverns full of gossip, and moss-covered walls show a level of care that impresses. Natural lighting gives the landscapes a more organic tone, while the soundtrack remains subtle, allowing ambient sounds to take center stage. Even the day and night cycle influences NPC behavior, with their routines changing the dynamics of the environment. It's like being inside a medieval chronicle unfolding around you. In 10th place, here's a series that doesn't skimp on atmosphere and visual impact, building a setting that blends the strange, the dark, and the philosophical with mastery. Bioshock Series starts in a lighthouse and ends in places that defy logic. Whether submerged cities or those suspended in the sky, the setting is never just a backdrop. It's a fundamental part of the narrative. Each location has its own identity, filled with ideology, decay, and uncomfortable questions about control, freedom, and morality. The gameplay mixes intense shooting with special abilities that turn combat into something creative and unpredictable. Firing lightning, controlling enemies, freezing paths. All of these can be combined with traditional weapons to create unique solutions in battles. But it's not just about winning fights. Decisions weigh heavily. Choices shape the course of the story, and the details hidden in the environment expand your understanding of what's going on without forcing explanations. The buildings, old advertisements, the era-inspired music, and the audio clips scattered across the map create a dense atmosphere, always seeming to want to show you something. The art carries a disturbing retro charm, floating between the beautiful and the grotesque. The lights, the reflections in the water, the sound of footsteps in empty corridors. Everything is calculated to maintain that constant sense of unease. It's a universe that challenges both logic and ethics, and doesn't leave your head anytime soon. In 11th place, it's time to remember a trilogy that earned its spot among the greatest with a flawless mix of science fiction, moral choices, and complex relationships. Mass Effect series places you at the heart of a universe at risk, where each planet has its own crises, cultures, and dilemmas. What's most impressive is how everything connects. Decisions made in the first game echo through to the last, with real and often unpredictable consequences. Nothing happens by chance, and every conversation can change the course of the story. The game structure balances exploration, combat, and narrative perfectly. The shooting system evolved with each title, but always leaves room for unique abilities, combos, and smart use of the environment. Outside of combat, dialogue choices are as important as any weapon, opening distinct paths and affecting alliances, deaths, and outcomes. The side missions also carry weight, deepening the universe and offering stories that could have easily been their own game. The space visuals impress with futuristic stations full of life, ruins lost on frozen planets, and deserts brimming with ancient secrets. The soundtrack, with its striking synthesizers, gives a melancholic yet epic tone. The ships, the clothing, the details of alien species, all showcase a huge amount of care in creating something cohesive and believable. It's a universe where each star seems to have a story waiting to be discovered amidst difficult decisions and unforgettable moments. In 12th place, let's talk about a game that swapped Olympus for Norse mythology and brought along a new way of telling its story. God of War changed everything without losing the brutal essence that made it famous. The camera never cuts, the combat is heavy and choreographed, and the bond between father and son adds a new weight to the battles. The journey stops being just about facing gods and turns into a path of learning, mourning, and redemption, where every step carries unresolved memories. The battles are impactful and require more than brute strength. Strategy is needed, mastering the axe, understanding enemy patterns, and knowing the right moment to act. The world opens up organically, with interconnected areas that reveal secrets, challenges, and hidden parallel stories around every corner. Combat mixes with exploration, puzzles, and narrative segments that keep the pace engaging, leaving no space for unnecessary distractions. The setting is almost a character in itself. Dense forests covered in fog, frozen mountains hiding forgotten shrines, lakes that transform as the story progresses. Everything feels alive, pulsing with meaning. The soundtrack accompanies each moment with precision, giving strength to silences and weight to the battles. The details in the faces, clothing, and environments amplify the emotional intensity of the game, creating a visual narrative that pulls you in even in the quietest moments. In 13th place, we have a game that stands out for treating each movement, choice, and dialogue as fundamental pieces of an interactive story full of tension. Detroit Become Human doesn't just place control in your hands, it also places it in your conscience. Everything revolves around decisions, some simple, others almost unbearable in their complexity, and all with direct consequences. The script is woven with multiple paths, and each new attempt can reveal entirely different sides of the same scene. The mechanics are focused on narrative, with occasional exploration and quick choices that shape the unfolding story. But it's not just about clicking and watching. The game forces you to think about the impact of every action, even the small gestures. There are moments of investigation, escape, confrontation, and psychological tension, all delivered with cinematic rhythm and smart camera work. The interesting part is that, instead of giving you answers, it gives you questions, and some of those stick with you even after the credits roll. The world is a version of the near future, with technological cities, glaring inequality, and social dilemmas loaded with relevance. The urban setting, minimalist interiors, and even the character designs emphasize the idea of a future that feels too plausible. The soundtrack enters with subtle or intense moments, depending on the scene, but always just right. It's a visual narrative guided by choices that challenge you to question not just the game, but what you would do in each character's shoes. In 14th place, here comes a game that took a beloved classic and rebuilt it with a care that borders on obsession. Resident Evil 4 Remake keeps the tension of the original, but masterfully updates the rhythm, combat, and visuals. The constant sense of threat remains, but now everything is smoother, more responsive, and more cinematic. The iconic moments have been kept, but reimagined with a darker touch, without losing the charm of the frantic action. The combat system is more dynamic, shooting enemies in the legs, using the environment to your advantage, avoiding traps, or facing enemies that learn and adapt. All of it has been refined. The inventory returns with its classic organization style, but with improvements that make things easier without taking away the tension. The game doesn't hold your hand. It puts pressure on you constantly, with quick decisions, limited ammo, and that feeling that any misstep could cost dearly. There's no time to relax. The villages, castles, and laboratories are more detailed and oppressive. The lighting makes every shadow seem suspicious, and the sound, from footsteps upstairs to the whisper of a nearby enemy, raises the tension to another level. The art direction keeps the game's identity, but adds texture, depth, and realism that enhance the heavy atmosphere. Every environment tells something, and the way everything has been redone shows respect for the original while daring to reimagine it. It's pure adrenaline from start to finish. In 15th place, we have a game that didn't just recreate a classic of space horror, but elevated every aspect of it with absurd precision. Dead Space Remake puts you aboard an abandoned spaceship where silence is as threatening as the monsters. Nothing is predictable, and every dark corridor carries the feeling that something terrible is about to happen. The immersion is total, with an oppressive setting, tense lighting, and sound design that works as the invisible villain. Combat isn't about shooting in the chest, it's about dismembering. Literally, each creature demands surgical precision and nerves of steel. The variety of weapons has been kept, but with adjustments that make everything more practical and brutal. The armor-integrated interface, without a traditional HUD, enhances the immersion and keeps the tension constant. Solving puzzles, restoring systems, and surviving ambushes have turned into a sequence of quick decisions and real dangers, with no room for distraction or comfort. The spaceship is a maze of filth, darkness, and hidden stories. Nothing feels artificial. Everything there has a function, a history, and a risk. The metallic noises, distorted voices, broken alarms. Everything is used to mess with your head. The soundtrack enters at key moments, always during the most claustrophobic scenes, and the graphics breathe new life into the atmosphere without losing the spirit of the original. It's technical, psychological, and direct horror that grabs you and doesn't let go until the last door shuts. In 16th place comes a game that challenges any simple label. NieR Automata mixes frantic action with philosophy, melancholy, and a type of narrative that refuses to follow a straight line. The world seems on the brink of collapse, covered in ruins and machines with strangely human behaviors. But the more you advance, the more the questions take over. Why fight? Who to fight for? And what does it really mean to be free? The game doesn't give easy answers, it provokes. The combat is swift, stylish, and varied. Each strike, dodge, and special attack flows smoothly, while the camera shifts angles and even genres without warning. From hack and slash to bullet hell, from platformer to aerial shooting. And it all happens without breaking the rhythm. The mechanics transform as the story progresses, with new layers of gameplay unlocked in unexpected ways. Nothing repeats for no reason, and every twist changes your understanding of what came before. The soundtrack is one of the most memorable in recent times, alternating between ethereal choruses, melancholic piano, and beats that quicken your heart. The abandoned cities, rust-covered forests, and deserts filled with technological remnants create a contrast between beauty and decay. The visual style is minimalist, but carries its own elegance. Everything seems designed to make you feel uncomfortable, curious, and emotionally involved with something that goes far beyond the surface. In 17th place, we have a game that revived first-person horror with a force no one expected. Resident Evil 7 changes the perspective but keeps the DNA of a series. Mysterious mansions, lab secrets, and that tension that grows with every door you open. The difference now is how personal everything feels. It's no longer about the world at risk. It's about escaping a house where everything seems to hate you. And this shift in scale makes the fear more direct, more close to the skin. The first-person view turns every corner into a real threat. Every step is a gamble. Every distant noise forces you to stop and listen. The pace slows down at times, forcing you to search the environment, gather items, and come up with strategies. When combat happens, it's dry, tense, and often desperate. The game doesn't flood you with ammo or easy chances. Everything must be used carefully. And this gives a huge weight to every confrontation, even with small enemies. The house where all takes place is a suffocating design spectacle. Small rooms, dark corridors, and environments full of hidden clues show great care with the pacing and atmosphere. The dirt, the humidity, the details and objects and walls tell more about the place than any dialogue. And as the story advances, the environment changes subtly, revealing new threats and areas that keep the tension at its peak. It's horror built with precision and patience. In 18th place, here's a game that blends survival, drama, and landscapes devastated by nuclear winter. Metro Exodus takes everything the series built in dark, claustrophobic tunnels and expands it into a larger, but equally hostile world. The surface is now part of the path, but every step off the beaten track brings new dangers, radiation, and a constant feeling that the world will never be the same again. It's a journey with its own rhythm, filled with pauses that speak louder than the combat. Combat alternates between tension and explosion. Stocking up on resources requires exploration, and often, silence is your best weapon. Well-executed stealth can avoid unnecessary gunfights, but when things get tight, your improvised arsenal answers the call. The customization system allows for practical weapon adjustments, and the dynamic day-night cycle, along with the weather, directly influences how you approach each mission. The game forces you to observe the environment, calculate, and react without guarantees. Each region visited has a unique identity, from toxic deserts to frozen forests. The places are in ruins but tell stories through objects, forgotten structures, and characters marked by suffering. There's no visual exaggeration. Everything feels dirty, broken, and real. The details reinforce the feeling of being in a world undergoing forced reconstruction, where the little that's left must be protected with everything you have. It's a post-apocalyptic world that's scarier for its melancholy than for its dangers. In 19th place, we have a game that has become a reference when it comes to freedom in urban chaos. GTA 5 delivers a pulsating city where everything happens at once. The Los Santos of the game is more than just a setting. It's a living organism, where every corner can turn into the stage for something completely unexpected. The gameplay offers an absurd variety. Missions range from cinematic heists to everyday tasks, helicopter chases, gunfights at sea, and film-like directed sequences. And between missions, you can spend hours exploring, causing chaos, or simply observing the city functioning on its own. The city isn't just big, it's dense. Rich neighborhoods, slums, industrial zones, desert, mountains, beaches, everything is interconnected and loaded with its own identity. The details catch your attention. Graffiti on the walls, radios filled with satire, spontaneous NPC dialogues. The lighting changes the vibe of each region, and the dynamic weather makes the city even more unpredictable. It's a world where every element seems tuned to simulate the unpredictability of real life with irony and precision. It's time to talk about a game that grabs you not only with action, but with aesthetic and narrative care at every step of the journey. Ghost of Tsushima delivers an island in conflict, overrun by invaders, where every decision carries honor, weight, and scars. What's most impressive is how the game balances intense combat with moments of contemplation. Walking through golden fields, following the wind instead of markers, finding poetry amidst battles. Everything contributes to a sense of quiet purpose. The combat is direct, precise, and unforgiving. Every duel demands full attention to the enemy's movements, and switching stances mid-fight becomes a dance of reflex and technique. No exaggerated bars or fantasy strikes. Here, a sharp sword and focus are enough. And even outside of combat, there's so much to do. Freeing villages, training skills, facing ancient legends, and finding balance between the samurai code and the demands of a war that doesn't wait for justice. The art direction is breathtaking. Skies in dramatic tones, forests that whisper with the wind, red leaves flying as if they had their own choreography. It's not just beautiful, it's poetic. And this also shows in the details, the reverence for the fallen, the compositions of the shrines, the conversations that reveal more than they seem. It's the kind of game that respects the player's time and responds with beauty, cultural respect, and intensity at every turn. Continuing, here's a game that honestly made me rethink my views. I was never a fan of turn-based combat. I always prefer direct action and fast-paced gameplay. But Clair Obscur Expedition 33 came out of nowhere and simply won me over. The visuals are unbelievable, the kind that finally live up to what the new generation of consoles promised. It's all so well thought out, so detailed, that you find yourself stopping just to admire the scenery. The soundtrack is a spectacle in itself. Not only does it accompany the most impactful moments, but it sticks in your head. One of those tunes you catch yourself humming without even realizing. And this complements surprisingly engaging combat, full of nuances, where every decision feels meaningful. The transitions between action and dialogue are smooth, and the battles flow in a way that makes you forget any resistance to the style. Every conversation, every choice feels crafted with almost artisanal attention. What's most beautiful is realizing the love put into every frame. The game was developed by just 30 former Ubisoft employees, and it's impossible not to feel the personal touch in everything. The details, the references, the moments of pause, and even the silence, all carry that sense that those who made it truly cared. It's the kind of game that not only excites you, it gives hope for a better future for games. A reminder that there's still room for surprises. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm enjoying every second of the gameplay. In fact, I posted the first hour of the game here on the channel with no commentary, just focusing on the magic of the game. I'll leave it here in the card for you to check out. And tell me, which of these games have you had the chance to play, and what did you think of them? I'd also love to know if there's any other game you consider perfect and would definitely fit in today's list. If you can, please subscribe to the channel to help me grow and never be unsure what to play again. A big hug, happy gaming, and see you tomorrow.